Okay, everybody, big test tomorrow. I know you can do it. It's 80 questions, multiple choice, fill in the blank, study hard. I know you can do it. So you ready? Okay, here we go. You ready? We need to talk about federalism. Okay, federalism, gonna do it in less than 3 minutes. Federalism is this idea that comes in the post-constitutional convention era between the time of the convention itself and the ratification debate. Remember, James Madison leaves the convention not happy at all. He wanted a stronger centralized government, but he realizes that federalism is a selling point to the anti-federalists. And remember, the anti-federalists win big by getting a Bill of Rights added to the Constitution. But federalism is essentially a midpoint between a unitary system of government where all power is centralized and a confederacy where all the power would come out of the state capitals. So federalism has a few different forms. For the first 150 years, we have something called dual federalism or layer cake federalism, where you have the national government, you have the state governments, and they do different things. When they do conflict, of course, the national government wins out, and that, of course, is the contribution of McCulloch versus Maryland, where John Marshall uses the supremacy clause to explain that when they do conflict, the national government is supreme, and essentially the Bank of the United States is constitutional because of implied powers. That being said, for 150 years, states had powers and the national government had powers. And the national powers were what we call enumerated powers. They were listed primarily in Article 1, Section 8. Anything having to do with something national in nature, like raising an army, coining money, regulating the economy, having and ratifying treaties. All of these things are enumerated powers. They are listed powers. On the other hand, as Madison says in Federalist 45, the powers of the federal government are few and defined. And if it's not listed there, it belongs to the states, which are what we call reserved powers. So if it's not listed in the Constitution, if it's not listed in the federal Constitution, that area of public policy is supposed to belong to the states. Things like education, law enforcement, prisons, infrastructure, elections, marriages, family law, all of these things are the domain of the states. They are reserved for the states. And of course, sometimes you have concurrent powers, which are things that both the state and the national governments can do together, such as taxing and having a court system. Of course, this all changes with the New Deal in the 1930s, because what you get is a huge augmentation of federal power in the form of the New Deal. This is what we call marble cake federalism or cooperative federalism. And this is where the federal government, through things like grants and mandates, begin to get the states to become not subservient to the national government, but they become administrative units of the national government in many ways. So in the 1930s, you have the New Deal. In the 1960s, you have the Great Society. And in both instances, you have grants and mandates as the vehicles for the national government getting the states to do their bidding. So you have two kinds of grants. You have block grants, which are essentially money that's just given to the states for them to do what they want. And you have categorical grants, which are strings attached. 90% of all grants are categorical. We're talking about Head Start, Medicare. Those are categorical grants. That's money that's given to the states. You also have mandates, which are essentially our orders, where the federal government tells the states you have to do this. Unfunded mandates are really annoying because the states have to do the national government's bidding without any kind of pecuniary or financial support. Funded mandates aren't so bad, of course, because the federal government says, hey, you have to do this, but hey, we're going to give you money to do it. So, of course, we see the changing nature of American federalism. So make sure you know that. Also make sure you know all of the different parts of the Constitution dealing with federalism. The word's never used, but the 10th Amendment about states' rights, the 9th Amendment about unenumerated powers, the 14th Amendment, privileges and immunities, the 4th article, which deals with this notion that one state has to follow the legal agreements of the other, that has to give them full faith and credit. That clause is on there as well. So best of luck tomorrow. You're going to do great. See you then.